They called him a beast in chains until she declared him her chosen mate. The auction square of Vale Prime pulsed with noise, shouts of haggling merchants, the clink of currency chips, the hum of security drones hovering in lazy circles. Traders boasted of their exotic wares, silken skins from the water worlds, living jewels that pulsed with light, caged predators from the frontier. But all sound dulled the moment the largest cage was wheeled into the square. Inside, bound with shock collars and heavy chains, stood a figure most in the crowd had never seen before. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his skin bronzed beneath grime and scars. His eyes burned with an untamed fire. He was human. Among the civilized worlds, humans were a rarity. Half-remembered myths from the Rim colonies whispered of as stubborn, violent, and nearly extinct. To the assembled traders, he was a curiosity. To the crowd, he was a spectacle. To the auctioneer, he was a prize. The merchant presenting him sneered at the crowd, slapping the bars of the cage. A savage from the ruins of Seoul, he spat. Strong, but stubborn. Barely speaks, barely obeys. Fit for labor or blood sport. Worthless for anything finer. The crowd jeered and laughed. But one voice cut through the noise. "Release him," said a young woman, stepping forward. Gasps rippled. She wore flowing violet robes marked with the insignia of Vale's ruling council. Her black hair was crowned with silver threads, her posture regal, her gaze steady. Everyone knew her name, Lyra Valen, daughter of the counselor himself. The merchant blinked. "Release him? To you?" He smirked. "Perhaps you'd like a pet, counselor's daughter? A beast to amuse yourself with." Laughter rippled again, sharper this time. Lyra ignored it. Her voice rang clear. "I will pay whatever price you name. Unlock the cage." Her father, seated on the dais above the square, surged to his feet in fury. "Lyra, this mockery ends now." But before he could finish, Lyra lifted her chin and declared, loud enough for every ear to hear, "That savage is my future husband." The square erupted into chaos. The beast freed. By the ancient laws of Vale, a public vow of marriage could not be dismissed, not even by the ruling counselor. A claim once spoken was binding, recognized by assembly law. And so, though fury boiled in her father's eyes, the human was released into Lyra's custody. That night, in her private chambers, Lyra offered him water, food, and clean clothes. He accepted the water silently, studying her with suspicion. "My name is Lyra," she said softly. "You're safe here." The man's voice was rough, as though long and used. "Safe is not a word I trust. What is your name?" He hesitated before answering. "Kale." He ate sparingly, his eyes never leaving hers. For the first time since his capture, no chains bound him, yet he stood like a man still imprisoned. Trials and whispers. Words spread quickly. Nobles scoffed. Traders mocked. Whispers filled the assembly halls. The counselor's daughter had bound herself to a human slave, an outrage, a scandal, a disgrace. But under law, the claim could not be undone without formal trials. And so Kale was summoned before the assembly to prove his worth. The first trial was combat. 3 trained gladiators faced him in the arena. The crowd expected a massacre. Instead, they witnessed one. Kale fought with brutal efficiency. Every strike was precise, every movement honed from years of survival. Within minutes, the gladiators lay defeated, and Kale stood bloodied but unbroken. The second trial was strategy. Nobles challenged him to command simulated armies in the Hollow Wars. Kale dismantled their maneuvers with unorthodox tactics, feints, ambushes, unpredictable moves that no Vale strategist had considered. The final trial was survival. Cast into the barren wastes with nothing, Kale returned weeks later alive and accompanied by a tamed predator from the wilds, its massive form trailing loyally at his side. The crowd, once mocking, began to whisper in awe. Bond forged. Through every trial, Lyra stood with him. She tended his wounds, defended his honor, and shielded him from whispers of scandal. One night, after the survival trial, Kale sat beside her beneath Vale's twin moons. His voice was quiet. "Why did you do this? You risked everything to claim me. Why?" Lyra's gaze held his. "Because when I saw you in that cage, I saw more than chains. I saw a man who refused to bow, and I realized I'd rather stand with you than rule alone." For the first time, Kale's hardened expression softened. His hand brushed hers, tentative but real. From that night forward, they were no longer captor and captive. They were partners. The betrayal. But power does not forgive defiance. Lyra's father, desperate to erase the scandal, conspired with the same merchant who had sold Kale. In the dead of night, soldiers stormed Lyra's chambers. Kale fought like a storm, but numbers overwhelmed him. Chains bound his wrists. Once more. Dragged before the council, Lyra screamed her protest. "You break the law. He is mine by right." Her father's voice was cold. "You shame this house. That creature will be disposed of, and you will be wed to one worthy of your station." But Lyra's fury blazed. "Then I will see this council burn before I betray him." The assembly erupted in uproar. Fire and flight. Kale was taken to the docks, locked in the trader's ship, bound for the slave markets. But Lyra had loyal allies, servants, guards, even a few nobles disillusioned with her father's rule. They struck in the night. Blaster fire lit the docks as Lyra carved a path to Kale's cell. She shattered the lock with her own hands and pulled him free. "Lyra," he whispered, stunned. "Come on," she said fiercely. "We finish this together." Side by side they fought through corridors, their bond stronger than steel. When the merchant himself raised a weapon, spitting venom. Worthless savage. Kale's fist shattered his skull before he could fire. The choice. With the docks in flames and the traitor dead, Lyra and Kale faced the assembly one last time. The counselor demanded execution. But the people had seen the trials, seen Kale's strength, seen Lyra's defiance. And for the first time in centuries, the assembly broke with tradition. They voted not to condemn, but to release. Banished from Vale Prime, Lyra and Kale were free to choose their path. Lyra turned to him, eyes steady. "Where now?" Kale's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "Anywhere, so long as I'm not in chains." She took his hand. "Then we walk the stars together." Epilogue. They left Vale Prime in a stolen ship, bound for the unknown. Rumors spread swiftly of a human warrior once caged, of a counselor's daughter who defied her world, of two souls bound not by law or politics but by choice. To some, their story was scandal. To others, legend. But to Lyra and Kale it was simple. They had been mocked as savage and scandalous. They had been bound, shamed, betrayed. But together they were free. And the galaxy would soon learn that no cage could hold them.